Energy. It's the power we use in our everyday lives, whether that be for transportation, manufacturing, communicating, heating, or as a light source. Energy has become a basic necessity for us humans. The energy we have used for centuries have known to be non-renewable, which depletes after human use. But in recent years, renewable energy sources have emerged, which can sustain human activity through ongoing processes that produce energy.
In the Philippines, however, non-renewable energy sources such as coal remains a major source of energy generation for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, with a combined share of 50%, which raises the question, how long until these renewable energy sources replace non-renewable energy sources in the Philippines? How is the rest of the world dealing with these renewable energy sources?
According to the 2018 Statistical Review of World Energy, energy consumption growth has averaged 2.2% in 2017, an increase from 1.7% in 2016 and the fastest since 2013. The top three energy sources increasingly used include natural gas, renewables, and oil. And by 2040, global energy demand will have increased to more than a quarter due to increasing income and population, as stated by the 2018 World Energy Outlook.
Natural gas consumption in 2017 rose by 3%, which converts to 96 billion cubic meters since 2010. This growth was driven by countries such as China, the Middle East, and Europe. Trade for natural gas also increased by 6.2%, with increase in exports driven by Australia, the United States, and Russia. Oil consumption in 2017 grew by 1.8%, which converts to 1,700,000 barrels per day and is above the 10-year average of 1.2% for the third consecutive year. Countries such as the United States and China are considered as the largest contributor to the growth of this energy resource. Coal consumption in 2017 increased by 1%, the same as 25 million tons of oil. This increase can be considered a step back after 3 years of successive decrease in coal consumption, and we have India and China to blame for this.
Increase of energy consumption in the Philippines led to the increase of demand and supply of energy in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao over the past years. Statistics show that total electricity consumption grew attributed to the growth of the residential and industrial sectors. Natural gas, oil, and coal are the major sources of energy consumed in the Philippines.
In Luzon, consumption reached a total of 69,624,603 megawatts per hour, 3.6% higher than in 2016. This growth is driven by the residential and commercial sector. In Visayas, consumption rose to 5.8% from 2016 to 2017. Same as in Luzon, gross sales were driven by the residential and commercial sector. Other sectors grew by 12.8% due to the improved economic performance of agriculture, hunting, forestry, and fishing in the western and central Visayas. Due to the increase in industrial electricity consumption, sales and consumption grew by 4%.
How much energy does the whole world produce then? In 2017, it rose by 2.8%, mainly due to emerging economies. The energy sources responsible for this are renewables and coal, with the former accounting for 49% and the latter accounting for 44%.
Renewable energy production grew by 17% and is considered the largest increase on record. The largest contributor is wind, which contributed to more than half, and solar, which contributed to more than a third. Coal production grew by 3.2% and is the fastest rate record since 2011. China has the largest contribution, followed by the United States. Continued growth is expected in 2018. Several other energy sources have seen production growth in 2017. Oil production rose by 600,000 barrels per day, natural gas by 4%, hydroelectric by 0.9% compared to a 10-year average of 2.9%, and nuclear energy production grew by 1.1%.
As for energy production and generation in the Philippines, we want to highlight the increase in supply to which new capacities were added to the country's supply base. It includes coal-fired, solar, oil-based, hydropower, and off-grid power plants as well. For fuel-type basis energy, coal, renewable energy, oil-based, and natural gas play significant roles to the energy production and generation.
Luzon experienced 11 yellow alerts and 2 red alerts due to forced outages, natural disasters, and gas restrictions. Typhoon Jolina, Maring, Odette, and Salome caused blackouts in the parts of the Cagayan region, regions 1 and 3, and Calabarzon. 6.5 magnitude earthquake in Leyte affected and damaged geothermal power generation and transmission, while Typhoon Urduha heavily affected the province of Samar and Leyte that caused damage to power lines and streamlines of geothermal power plants. 6.7 magnitude earthquake on February 10, 2017 and its 5.9 magnitude aftershock caused minimal damage to the distribution of lines in the Surigao area, while the Marawi siege on May 2017 resulted to multiple and partial blackouts in Lanao del Sur area.
It is sad to note that renewable energy composed of a very small component in our total energy supply, despite of our very strong irradiance or solar energy from the sun in the Philippines, because our location is equator. So this is our energy supply is very small right now relative to our consuming population. That's why by law of supply and demand, our electricity is very expensive because our supply is very low. Areas in the province, in the countryside, normally they have small supply of electricity because our distribution system from cooperative are not sufficient to cater to supply the requirements. Due to our geographic location, some areas does not have supply of electricity because they are disconnected to the main line or main grid, where most of our power plants are connected. So like in Oriental Mindoro, they are using diesel feed engine, very expensive fuel, and this fuel is being subsidized by the national government. So that makes it expensive and very disadvantage to our government. Solar system like microgrid or hybrid system can efficiently supply the requirement of those areas that is remote and disconnected. The main problem, if you're going to use the traditional diesel feed engine, the supply of fuel. But if you're going to use renewable power, it is sustainable. No more. The fuel is free. So, especially irradiance in or the strong fuel from the sun or wind is located in those areas. Definitely, we are EPC. When we say EPC, engineer procurement and constructions, we are also developer of solar system, and we also supply solar power, solar water pump, solar water pump irrigations and residential use. We also supply solar component for those remote areas, solar kit, providing solar street light standalone, street light to remote areas or barangays or province, or even in the city we supply LED lamps, corded LED lamps. Definitely, we always send people to study, to conduct training in Germany, Korea, Japan, China. If I'm going to be, if you are going to ask me, it is because of our government setup. It is, in my opinion, it is controlled by those power energy supplier that runs mostly fossil fuel. So renewable power is still very slim. Chance of winning government projects or gaining momentum in the Philippines. Unlike in other countries, um, the government is very strong in terms of adopting solar system or renewable energy, like in Japan, like in Korea, like in Vietnam, and most of our Asian neighbors. They are very aggressive.
Now, what does this mean as a whole? And what effect does the production and consumption of energy have on overall usage? Well, in 2017, carbon emissions from energy consumption increased by 1.6%. This follows little to no growth from 2014 to 2016. Now, consider the fact that the whole goal of this is to reduce carbon emissions. Simply put, it's not looking good. Bob Dudley, chief executive of BP Group, has said that growth in energy demand picked up as gains in energy efficiency slowed, coal consumption increased for the first time in 4 years, and carbon emissions from energy consumption grew. Along with that, Spencer Dale, chief economist of BP Group, has said global energy markets in 2017 took a backward step in terms of the transition to a lower carbon energy system. Growth in energy demand, coal consumption, and carbon emissions all increased. And the continent where it all happens? Asia.
According to the 2018 World Energy Outlook, Asia makes up most of the recent growth of various energy sources. Half of global natural gas growth, 60% of global wind and solar PV growth, more than 80% of global oil growth, and more than 100% of global coal and nuclear growth. Because of this, international energy trade flows are increasingly drawn to Asia from across the Middle East, Russia, Canada, Brazil, and the United States, which is why a need for greater advances in the power sector is needed. 20 years after policies that encourage renewable energy have been implemented, there has been no improvement in the mix of fuels feeding the global power sector. According to the 2018 World Energy Outlook, the convergence of cheaper renewable energy technologies, digital applications, and the rising role of electricity is a crucial vector for change, central to the prospects for meeting many of the world's sustainable development goals.
The 2018 World Energy Outlook, which details global energy trends and what possible impact they will have on supply and demand, carbon emissions, air pollution, and energy access, has outlined several different scenario-based possibilities, which outlines different possible futures for the energy system, contrasting the path taken by current and planned policies with those that can meet long-term climate goals under the Paris Agreement, reduce air pollution, and ensure universal energy access. One main idea common across all these possibilities is how renewable energy technologies provide the main pathway towards the provision of universal energy access. For example, if renewables and coal switch places in the power mix, the share of generation from renewables will rise from 25% today to around 40% in 2040, with coal treading the opposite path. A much stronger push for electric mobility, electric heating, and electricity access could lead to a 90% rise in power demand from today to 2040. And rapid least cost energy transitions require an acceleration of investments in cleaner, smarter, and more efficient energy technologies. But policymakers also need to ensure that all key elements of energy supply, including electricity networks, remain reliable and robust.
The global situation in energy management is just one of the several issues the Paris Agreement aims to tackle. But what exactly is the Paris Agreement? According to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the agreement was signed in 2016, and it brings all nations into a common cause to undertake ambitious efforts to combat climate change and adapt to its effects, with enhanced support to assist developing countries to do so. To reach these ambitious goals, appropriate financial flows, a new technology framework, and an enhanced capacity building framework will be put in place, thus supporting action by developing countries and the most vulnerable countries in line with their own national objectives.
The United Nations have warned that we only have 12 years left to limit climate change catastrophe. The key word there is limit, not stop. Just limit. Considering that there is very little chance to heal the environment, ecosystem, and the earth in general, the least we can do is to take action. Not only that, the depletion of our natural resources due to factors like climate change greatly affects the quality of life of a developing country like the Philippines.
As mentioned earlier, carbon emissions is at an all-time high since 2011. This is due to the prevalent dependence on coal as a main source of energy, of which emits dangerous greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide. Not only that, spillovers in these resources, especially oil, often happens. The transportation of oil from wells collected from countries like United States and the Middle East can result to oil spills. Furthermore, transporting oil from one country to another entails great cost.
In an attempt to lessen our carbon footprint, we can make small sacrifices to conserve energy, such as unplugging devices when not in use, walk, bike, or take public transportation as much as possible, and more. In addition to that, we should turn as much as possible patronize the renewable energy. Though costly, benefits will surely exceed the cost, since renewable energy such as solar power converts electricity using the regions of the sun, which is free. Not only that, solar panels can be installed in houses, therefore eliminating the cost to transport energy. Finally, we should raise awareness on the importance and great benefits of renewable energy, and we can do that in many ways.
In the Philippines, however, power plants are monopolized by multi-million peso companies like San Miguel Corporation, while energy distribution is mainly controlled by the government through Meralco. To ensure that capitalization won't continue on, companies like Equator Energy should be able to enter the industry. And for them to do that, we should make sure to vote candidates that support clean energy.
In conclusion, the state of energy management in the Philippines is less than acceptable compared to neighboring countries. Heavy use of non-renewable energy sources has prevented us from the transition to renewable energy sources.
Multiple factors include the lack of accessibility and political complications have further delayed this transition. This, of course, have affected the way of life of many Filipinos.
Many areas in the provinces lack the infrastructure to utilize the various possible energy sources their surroundings can provide. Most Filipinos lack the income to afford the current energy sources we use, and the lack of support from the government and general public further delays the possible future of the renewable energy sources.
If we are to ever reach this possibility, we must focus on spreading awareness on the infinite possibilities of renewable energy.